Hi, I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of Natascha Polké and Aparde remix of Neverland, and we have a fully arranged track here, modeled after it in Ableton, stock effects only, plus Serum, different harmonies, different melodies, different vocals, and PML sounds. It's lasting around 5 minutes with an intro. And then we bring in the beat and the deep plucks. And then more hi-hats and shakers. Super smooth build-up. Absolutely dreamy and everything, and we are sort of building that up and building it up, bringing in the pads and everything.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive.
Then the vocals come in. These are from the PML Vocals Volume 3 pack, not from Natascha, unfortunately. She has such a beautiful voice. And then we are entering the break.
Underneath the sky.
And then we are building it up slowly. And then we are dropping. With a bit of vocal texture and vocal shots. And then it evolves a bit, and then the dreamy strings and pads come in. And basically we repeat the arrangement from this point on once more here in the second part, and then we are going into an outro. Okay, so that is our arrangement overview. If we have a quick listen into the different groups, we have the drums group. Super nice and smooth and groovy. We have the bass group. And then we have the instruments group. With pads. With exactly one noise sweep here, but you could argue that these elements here are also serving as effects, because they essentially have long tails that sort of blend into the next part. And that is the nice sound design from Aparde. And we have the vocals group. And on the master, we are saturating it a bit, we are limiting it a bit. This one can be taken off, not being used here. We only use Ableton stock effects and instruments plus Serum. And before we dive into the elements one by one, who is Natascha Polké? She's a Swiss singer and music producer, has done collaborations with labels like Anjunadeep and Pias, and she does emotive melodies, heartfelt lyrics, super nice voice. Live performances where she's singing and also playing synths along. Absolutely fantastic. Love the sound. And Aparde, who's the remixer on the reference track for this one, is one of my absolute favorites. He has this deep, melancholy, atmospheric sound released on Christian Löffler's label, uses the Prophet synthesizer and a variety of sounds, creates these immersive soundscapes, introspective, intense sound. I think it's perfect. Anyways, let's take a look at the key elements here. We need a sort of soft kick. And by the way, all these sounds, MIDIs, samples, and presets are part of the deep house sound pack called Reflections here. And I'm looking at a project file called Sky. We have 4 more project files here in this style. You can check them out. Also Serum presets in there with different sounds from these projects, and also sample pack in there with loops and one shots. And that's, for example, one of the one shots from that sample pack, together with a rim, not a clap here, by the way. So we're playing the first one early, not in the clap position, that would be here, but we're in the clap position in the second turn. And so our kick sound, super smooth, and then you have this perky rim shot on top. We're also rolling off high end here, so to not have it too bright. So very nice. And now we already get one of the important elements here, the conga thing. And you can see that one is not perfectly on grid. It has a little bit of swingy lateness to it. Makes it sound more humanized, and it's panned left to right. And then on top of that we have this shaker. Second and third position, these are 16th notes. That one was a bit nasty here in this area, especially for this type of sound where we want, it's more lo-fi almost. So we want to make sure we are not getting too bright with these elements, and we have vocals on top. And that's our offbeat shaker. Almost like this jazz brush. And then another shaker. Listen to this one in solo. So this is our shaker setup, and it's just so nice and smooth. Bit of velocity. And our closed hi-hats. Playing 16th notes here with a velocity ladder going back down on the 4th one. And then this is our offbeat closed hi-hat. That one is not easy to hear. It's almost also like a shaker. This is a bit extreme, needed for, because this is sort of modeled after a reference track. Sometimes you need to do such extreme cases in order to get the sound design right, because you're not working with the same sounds that the original artists worked in your reference track. You would not produce like that forward thinking, but if you reverse engineer something to sort of learn the thinking behind the style, to see the world through the eyes of the artist, you sometimes have to do it that way. Learn the rules so you can break them later. And then we have this impact crash. But this is also a smooth one, super smooth crash. Kind of almost like this gong cymbal thing. Okay, and now we go into our bass line here. We have a sub bass. Yeah, we're playing E major, then followed by F sharp major, and then G sharp minor, because the third would be a minor third. And then we are playing B major. Sorry. on top and then back down. So you could argue we're in E Lydian or in G sharp minor. Depends a bit on where you see this thing resting. So that is our setup. Let's play the bass together with the kick. And this is really the Aparde, so the artist Aparde style. Smooth and warm setup. Let's take a look at the sound quickly here in Serum. We are playing a square wave and a saw wave and a sine wave in the sub. This one is an octave lower than the other two. Super simple setup. And now on top of that, or let's actually take a look at another one first. We have this sub thing here. Make sure you've got good speakers or on headphones, because this is very low down and it's super important to sort of get the groove right. Here we have a sine wave that's 3 octaves down. And this one is kind of doing something that a tom sometimes also does. But this one is almost like, it's a bit late in the attack and it's super short in the decay and super short in the release. This one is really helping your groove, and now we are playing that down there on G sharp, so you could argue we are in G sharp minor. The thing is, the note, we are so low down and it's almost hard to identify exactly what note you're playing here, but this one serves our groove purposefully. Without being too harsh or being too prominent like a tom. So together with that sub we just listened to. And now back to the sub bass, we are playing this mid here on top, which follows the same or a similar pattern as the sub bass in terms of the MIDI that we are playing. And sorry, solo. And now we are playing a saw wave here and a saw rounded to square wave, which has, you know, is 8 semitones down. It's an 3 octaves higher, but 8 semitones is like 2 and something higher. And I just noticed before recording this video that there was actually something needed to, because it's not always going to work with the thirds that we are playing on top here. We need to bring them down here and here. That's how I then automated the semitones that this one, oscillator B, is playing on top. And you don't really hear that because it's going to be overlaid by other elements, but you can't, sometimes this setup doesn't work if your scale doesn't really fit all these notes, because then you would have something like what you can get here. And so we're leaving the scale in that case. So just something to keep in mind. Sometimes it makes sense to quickly adjust for semitones that go off scale. Okay, so let's play them all together. And then we have this pluck main element here in our instruments group, which also follows this pattern. So let's actually bring that into the mix. So here we're playing the fifths on top. And if we play it together with the kick, there's our groove, there's our rhythm in these plucks already. Again, a saw wave and a sine wave here, and we are sending it through a low pass filter. It's the usual setup. And now on top of that, we have this higher pluck sound. Autopant to move around, is kind of serving as a drone. The atmo feels on top, just another saw wave sent through a plucky setup with a low pass filter here. This is controlling the cutoff. Together with the remaining drums. Okay, now we are assuming that Aparde is using the Prophet to put together the plucks and the pads, and we sort of have to model that with Serum, so we are kind of reverse engineering. You would probably not do that if you were forward thinking in your production. So take that with a grain of salt here. We are just trying to get to a layered sound that's similar to the reference track. We have sine keys. For the deep stuff, so that's basically just sine waves and their sidechain. That's where that click came from. And we have the same chord set up here. Bit of LFO movement on the filter for this saw wave. And plate reverb. Yeah, and let's quickly look at the chord progression here again. We are starting with E major. So, can bring that up. That's E major. And then we are following up with F major behind that. So if I would bring, well, we can see it here. F sharp major. And then we are following up with G minor. Sorry, G sharp minor, always forget to say sharp. And then it's B major behind it. So that's our chord progression here, slightly voiced differently in those different elements. So this pluck chords element is generating the movement. This one is stability in the low frequencies. And then now we need that an octave higher. Well, this one is just, you know, taking care of these mid frequencies. We needed a bit of beef in there, and this is more centered. So this one is a, you know, one voice, and here we have a bunch of voices filling out the frequencies in that range with 8 voices. And then also to fill out even more, we have this pad atmo a bit higher up. Voiced slightly differently, but still playing the same chord progression. And if we combine them all together, we are getting to something that moves a bit like what you would get out of a Prophet. It doesn't have to be much more than that. Later, we are adding a little bit of stringy top end to it. With long attack times here on that sound and a lot of voices, basic saw wave, type wave, and sine wave here. And then we also have this lower pad. Again, longer attack times here on that one. These are laid back strings that sort of come in like waves. And then we have this one for the top end. Yeah, and then we also have this magic pad. And you can study these in detail if you get the link in the description. If you go to link in the description and get the Deep House Reflection sound pack, that is the project file Sky. And you can study the entire setup here on your own. Maybe take on copy or duplicate some elements and put them in your own tracks, put in different MIDIs, and then have a nice setup right there. And these elements here, as mentioned briefly in the beginning, are sort of serving as our transition elements. So you're holding the long note, D sharp in this case, into the next part, and it gets a bit of a tail. Always a good technique if you don't want to use white noise all the time. And then here, that one as well. That one even a bit of uncertainty here in the fine pitch. Nice long reverb tail behind it. And this pluck. This one is sort of marching you towards the end of that pattern. Just a beautiful solution to sort of transition to the next 16 bars or something. And then now let's take a quick look at what happens below. We have this vocal texture element down here. Which also brings in a bit of movement to the entire thing. And that's why we don't necessarily need all this high information here early on in our main part. And here we just have a bunch of vocal chops. That sort of work nicely. This is from the PML Vocals Pack Volume 3, but it's also copied into this one here as well in the free bonus section. And it's also obviously in the project file sample folder. Quickly zooming out a bit here so we can take a look at what's still missing if we go to the break part and listen in there.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive. The adventure calls, I let myself fall. Underneath the sky.
So vocals wise, we have the main one.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive.
With a reverb tail and a delay tail here. And then we are taking that sort of an octave down.
Underneath the sky.
Just pitch down. It's the same thing here, or it's even more. It's -15, but then that one is -3, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so it's an octave down. Just fills out.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive.
And we're rolling off, for that low one, we're rolling off almost all the low information. We just want to have that one in the background there supporting our vocal. And we are also sending that through the delay and the reverb tails.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive. The adventure course, I let myself fall.
Yeah, and that is the elements of this track. Let's quickly sum up what's most important here. So you need this round and smooth kick below everything. Super important. This is not a, you know, main stage banger. And then we also combine that with this rim, not even a clap sound in this case. And then you need this conga element, which is sort of defining a bit of the swinginess already. And smooth shakers around it. So that's super important. And then we have, you know, this sub bass element that here helps with our groove, as a sort of serves as a tom but doesn't sound like one. It's also nice for bootlegs, if you want to do bootlegs and it's a hard time to put in a proper bass. Sometimes such a sub does the trick. And now you need this chill plucky bass line. And this one needs to be accompanied by a higher one, which can play the fifth. And in this case, we also put in the mid element in the bass mid. And then we have this sort of short plucky synth loop here, pluck high for atmo. Or you could also call it Arps. And what I find super important to sort of get the ingredients of the sound right are these sort of transition lead sounds here that swell in and out. So if we are putting those on, these long reverb tails. And then we also have pads sitting around it, but not too prominently here. These are super laid back, and just in the next turn we are adding in a bit more pad information, but also these ones are sort of swelling in like waves with long attack times here. So that is pad high, pad low, and the chords thing. Really nicely defining this style as well. And yeah, there are not really a lot of effects here. The effects are basically covered by these reverb tails of these swell sounds. And now we just need to make sure we have dreamy vocals. We are putting these dreamy vocals into the textures here in the background. And the main vocals are also dreamy in the reference track, not as dreamy, unfortunately. Here with this sample, we would have to invite Natascha to maybe sing a few phrases. So we are getting closer to her voice here, but you get the point, I guess. These are the ingredients. Feel free to check out the link in the description if you want to pick up this Deep House sound pack. Super nice stuff. I really enjoy that one. Also, feel free to check out the links in the description for a start to finish course for Melodic Deep House, where you can learn it all, the entire process. If you're interested in learning the music theory aspects for electronic music, there's a course linked there as well. And vocal packs, if you need vocals, drum samples, also linked down there if you want it all. Feel free to check out the PML Everything bundle. That is a fantastic deal. Now we are going to have a full playthrough. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive. The adventure course, I let myself fall. Underneath the sky, I'm feeling alive. The adventure course, I let myself fall.